The Tripartite Pact, a symbolic alliance with limited practical impact. The Tripartite Pact, signed on September 27, 1940, in Berlin by Germany, Italy, and Japan, was a key diplomatic event that formalized the Axis powers alliance during World War II. While the pact was intended to solidify military cooperation and establish a united front against potential adversaries, particularly the United States, its practical impact on the war was limited. Instead, the Tripartite Pact served more as a symbolic gesture that influenced perceptions and diplomatic relations, rather than a functional military alliance. Strategic context and motivations. The Tripartite Pact was signed against a backdrop of escalating global tensions and the expansionist ambitions of the Axis powers. Germany, under Adolf Hitler, sought to dominate Europe, while Benito Mussolini's Italy aimed to establish a new Roman Empire in the Mediterranean. Japan, under Emperor Hirohito, was pursuing its imperial ambitions in Asia, particularly in China and Southeast Asia. The pact was a natural extension of the earlier Anti-Comintern Pact, 1936, between Germany and Japan, which was aimed at countering the influence of the Soviet Union. Despite the ideological differences between fascist Germany and Italy and militaristic Japan, the three nations shared common interests in territorial expansion and the overthrow of the existing international order dominated by the Western powers. The Tripartite Pact was thus both a strategic move to deter the United States from entering the war and a signal of mutual support among the Axis powers. Provisions of the pact and their implications. The Tripartite Pact consisted of 6 articles that outlined the agreement among the signatories. The most significant clauses were Articles 1 and 2, which recognized Germany and Italy's leadership in establishing a new order in Europe and Japan's leadership in Greater East Asia. Article 3, the core of the pact, stipulated that if any of the signatories were attacked by a country not already involved in the European or Sino-Japanese conflicts, the others would come to their aid. Despite the strong language of cooperation, the pact's operational impact was minimal. The geographical separation of the Axis powers meant that coordinated military efforts were challenging. Japan, Germany, and Italy each pursued their own strategic goals, often with little regard for the interests of the others. The different theaters of war, Europe, North Africa, and Asia, further complicated any unified strategy. As a result, the defensive clauses of the pact were never invoked, and the alliance remained largely nominal. Expansion of the Axis alliance. Following the signing of the Tripartite Pact, several other nations joined the Axis powers, including Hungary, Romania, Slovakia, Bulgaria, and the independent state of Croatia. However, these countries were often motivated more by immediate geopolitical pressures than by genuine ideological alignment with the Axis. For instance, Romania joined the pact primarily to gain protection against the Soviet Union after losing territory to Hungary, Bulgaria, and the USSR. Yugoslavia's brief accession to the pact in March 1941 illustrates the fragility of these alliances. 2 days after signing, a coup d'état in Belgrade overturned the pro-Axis government, leading to a swift invasion by Germany, Italy, and Hungary. This incident highlighted the inherent instability and the opportunistic nature of many of the pact's signatories. The Soviet Union and the Tripartite Pact. One of the more intriguing aspects of the Tripartite Pact was the potential involvement of the Soviet Union. Prior to the signing, the Soviet Union was informed of the pact and even considered joining it as an update to its existing agreements with Germany, such as the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. However, the Germans were already planning their invasion of the Soviet Union, Operation Barbarossa, and despite initial Soviet interest, they never seriously considered allowing the USSR to join the Axis alliance. The discussions between Germany and the Soviet Union during this period reveal the deep mistrust between the two powers, despite their non-aggression pact. The Soviet proposal to join the Tripartite Pact was ignored by Germany, which was already committed to its plans of expansion into Soviet territory. Limited military and economic cooperation. The Tripartite Pact led to some military and economic cooperation between the Axis powers. But these efforts were hampered by logistical challenges and differing strategic priorities. For instance, Japan and Germany divided the world into operational zones along longitude 70 degrees east. But this division had little practical effect on their military operations. Coordination between the Axis navies was minimal, and joint military commissions met infrequently, often only for propaganda purposes. Economically, the pact did not lead to significant integration among the Axis powers. Japan, wary of jeopardizing its negotiations with the United States, was reluctant to grant economic concessions to Germany. It was not until January 1943 that a formal economic cooperation agreement was signed, and even then, it had limited impact. The No Separate Peace Agreement and the Pact's decline. One of the more significant outcomes of the Tripartite Pact was the No Separate Peace Agreement signed by Germany, Italy, and Japan in December 1941, shortly after Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor. This agreement committed the three powers to continue the war against the United States and Britain until a joint victory could be achieved. However, by the time this agreement was signed, the effectiveness of the Tripartite Pact as a unifying force had already waned. By late 1941, the Tripartite Pact had lost much of its relevance. The divergent strategic goals of the Axis powers, combined with the vast distances between their theaters of operation, meant that the pact was never more than a loose alliance. The historian Paul W. Schroeder aptly described the pact as virtually inoperative by the end of 1941, reflecting its decline from a position of importance to one of mere nominal existence. Legacy of the Tripartite Pact. Despite its limited practical impact, the Tripartite Pact had significant symbolic and ideological implications. It reinforced the perception of a coordinated Axis effort to dominate the world, particularly in the eyes of the "in this channel." I transform Wikipedia articles into video content, making it easier for you to explore the topics you care about. If you have a specific article in mind, feel free to request it in the comments or message me directly. American public. This perception played a crucial role in shaping U.S. foreign policy and public opinion, contributing to the decision to enter the war after the attack on Pearl Harbor. The legacy of the Tripartite Pact also extended into the post-war period. The pact and its associated agreements were cited in the Nuremberg and Tokyo war crimes trials as evidence of the Axis powers' coordinated aggression. The ideological foundations of the pact, rooted in fascism and militarism, were central to the legal and moral judgments passed on the leaders of the Axis powers. In conclusion, the Tripartite Pact was more significant as a diplomatic and propaganda tool than as a functional military alliance. It symbolized the ideological alignment of the Axis powers and their ambitions for a new world order, but it failed to translate into effective military cooperation. The Pact's legacy lies in its influence on wartime perceptions and its role in the broader narrative of Axis aggression during World War II.